excellence, encouraging students to stretch themselves, to try new things, and to take pride in their abilities are all very important to me as an educator. It is my mission to have a positive impact on each student I interact with, promote a lifelong love for reading and learning, equip students with the skills they need to be successful, and to see lives change while connecting with the world around them. I'm Sarah Westhead, librarian and English teacher at the Whitney Institute Middle School in Bermuda, and this is my National Geographic Educator certification video. As a teacher, I always plan with the end in view, and so when I began my journey to become a National Geographic certified educator, my mind began spinning a mile a minute. My 8th grade class was just finishing up our socio-cultural literature unit, where we looked at how, when and where a story is set, affects the characters and plot. My class had read 4 different realistic historical fiction novels in literature circles, all set in different times and places where the characters' human rights were being violated. And in desiring to help my students make connections learning, I realized that I could help them develop human-world connections by linking our past learning with their studies in science and social studies with our upcoming unit, argumentative writing and presentation skills. Before we could begin the unit, I needed to find a way to help students make these connections in their thinking and learning. After searching through the National Geographic Educator resources, I found an article on International Human Rights Day. I knew it would be perfect for my first activity, and I developed a lesson that allowed for differentiation of process and content, allowing for student choice. We began with a quick write, whereby students were pre-assessed for their understanding of what human rights were and what it meant to them. Students then shared their thoughts, which led us straight into a great discussion in which I helped students develop a greater understanding of the topic by showing videos by TED Ed and Amnesty Switzerland. Students reflected on what they learned through the Think, Pair, Share model. Students were then given the opportunity to read the National Geographic article on International Human Rights Day and answer questions about what they read. Questions ranged from observation and inference to higher-order thinking and synthesis, where students were asked to make connections with the book they had just finished reading for class. Next, students met up in their literature circles to share their answers and thoughts. The class then regrouped, and I presented the goals for the next unit, before students were asked to reflect on what they had learned in class through a KWH-LAQ chart and assigned a vocabulary review for homework. In planning for not only this lesson, but also for the entire argumentative writing unit, I made sure to connect with our science and social studies departments, and then began my plan to help students develop cultural, political, economic, historical, geological, and ecological perspectives, depending on their choice of subject. The goal is for students to identify a global problem, look at it at the local scale, and then develop a solution for that problem. Students have been allowed to choose either a human rights issue like homelessness, healthcare, or access to education, connecting with what they've learned in social studies, or a subject such as protecting the environment, invasive species, plastic pollution, or renewable energy, connecting it with the science curriculum. To help students better understand some of the human nature connections, students also spent a lesson looking at videos and articles on renewable energy from the National Geographic Educator resources, all while exploring the concept of using storytelling to persuade others, a lesson that formed part of my second activity. Now that they have selected a subject, students are now in the process of writing. The goal is that they will present their problem and solution, persuading others to join their cause through multimedia presentations similar to TED Talks or the Pechakucha 20 by 20 format. Students will begin making presentations on World Storytelling Day, March 20th, a day I learned about while browsing the Nat Geo resources. In this lesson, students explored the attitude of responsibility, the skill of collaboration, and knowledge of the human journey, based in the National Geographic Learning Framework. Students were able to begin developing greater understanding of human wants and needs, both globally and locally, and a responsibility for ensuring that the rights of others are respected. They did this by collaborating and sharing their ideas and opinions, which they had gathered from their previous learning, as well as the videos they watched and the reading they completed during the class. They were also able to develop knowledge by examining how the past, the development of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, still has an important role in our respect for others. As students watched the videos, read the article, and shared with each other, it was awesome to see them begin to make connections between what they had already learned, the socio-cultural situations the characters in their books experienced, and the world around them. Many were amazed at how many human rights there were, and were easily able to identify how the rights of the characters in their books had been violated. They also began seeing the ramifications challenges to human rights had. For example, freedom of speech means all people have that right, even when their beliefs are not considered socially acceptable. They also began identifying barriers to human rights in Bermudian society, including issues with poverty, homelessness, gang violence, and more. As I look toward the future, I'm excited to see how I'm helping to develop global citizens, and it's my desire to expand these two units, socio-cultural literature and argumentative writing, more with greater intentionality, and to share with my colleagues locally and internationally.